Okay, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're actually going to be showing the workout footage from tonight, which will be chest and back, and then we're going to be discussing the workout, the changes we made, and why we made the changes that we did for those of you interested in the workout video itself and the training program and why we're doing it. Also, how'd you guys like that thumbnail? Pretty interesting? I hope so. I hope it got y'all's attention enough to click on it. Now, if you could just stay on the video for a little bit and let us get into this, and then hopefully you guys find it entertaining, at least if nothing else. So, okay, as far as it goes for the training, we did make a couple adjustments to it. So what we're doing 4 sets of everything we did, which would be roughly 16 sets, because we do 4 exercises per body part and we do 4 sets per exercises, which was a total of 16 sets. And we would do between 8 to 12 repetitions. So however much volume that comes out to be. But what we were doing in the training program is we're actually doing nice slow negatives with a deep stretch at the top of the movement with a hard pull contraction with a nice slow negative, getting a hard contraction at every single rep, performing it as if it was the only rep. Now, training like this is very good. It yields a lot of results and you get a lot of benefits out of it. And training like that will get you very far down the road. But like anything, eventually things just run their course and they just don't work as well. And I think the reason why a lot of stuff stops working as well is because it becomes boring and you stop pushing yourself as hard as you normally would, but also because of you just kind of adapt to that training style and your body kind of stops responding and growing to it regardless of the training style. And it's just good to switch it up every now and then, not for this, you can say for the sake of muscle confusion, but honestly, I think that just bringing in a new stimulus causes you to want to push more because it feels like you're doing something different and new. Because let's be honest, there's only so many times, so many ways you can train the body. So you have to kind of keep it interesting. So what we're actually going to be doing now, instead of doing that style of training, is we're doing one warm-up set for the movement, which you could call it a filler set or whatever you want, of 20 reps. And then we do 4 working sets of 20 reps with the same exact weight. So we're going to take dumbbells, for instance, for tonight. So dumbbell press, we did, me personally, I did a set of the 20s for 20 reps, and then I went up to the 35s. And then I did 4 sets of 20 reps with the 35s. And I timed my sets. My sets are no longer than 2 minutes, well, my rest periods. I don't rest longer than 2 minutes. So I try to keep it at a minute between my rest periods. But if I run up to 2 minutes, that's fine. But I try to keep it around 1 minute and I time every single set, well, my rest periods. And then if I successfully complete all 20 reps for all 4 sets with that same weight, next time I do that movement, I will go up by 5 pounds. So next time I work out my chest and do dumbbell press, instead of doing 35s, I'll do 40s. And then if I hit all 4 sets of 20 reps, then I'll go up to 45s the next time, and then 50, then 55, then 60, 65, 70. And that's the way I built my dumbbell press up to, whenever I was powerlifting, up to 110-pound dumbbells for 5 sets of 20. And I'd bang them out quick. You know, it wasn't difficult for me to do. And it built my chest up before I got injured and I got hurt. And it also built my arms up and everything else. So there's so many different ways to go about training. But this is a way that you could progressive overload safely with high volume, low intensity, because your weights have to stay lower, because you're not going to be able to do 4 sets, 5 sets of 20 with heavy weights. Eventually you will, but eventually you're going to stall out, and then you could reset, or you could change the exercise, or you could change just the whole entire program all the way around whenever you get to that point where you have burnout from doing the same set or the same workout, you know.
Yeah, of course. Like, even with tonight's workouts, like changing it to that style again and being able to kind of have that push of like an extra drive, like knowing, all right, now I'm looking at doing the full 4 sets of 20 each time with the same weight. So I got to find a weight where, like we were in the gym talking about it, where you can hit it on the first set, you'll get that 20 reps, and you're like, okay, yeah, no problem. Second set, you're like, yeah, it's still good. Third set, you're like, a little tough. And then fourth set, you're getting it, and you're like, yeah, that was work right there. And finding that good medium ground to where you can hit that mark, and then next week you'll move up a little bit. And it is kind of, like I said, I've never really been one to kind of like track the numbers, monitor the numbers quite so much, but with something like this, it's not terrible to do, just because it does give you, like I said, sort of like little mini goals to look forward to. kind of thing. Like as you're going along doing your whole like rep sets and all that stuff. And again, like we did what 15, 16 weeks. For me, you have been doing it longer of doing the previous style, which there's nothing wrong with. And at some point, we might even swap back to who knows, like, or we might change this up to something else later on down the road, just come all together. But this does kind of give it a little bit of a fun factor again, sort of, in like having a new way of looking at the training and also just keeping up that intensity. Because like with everything we were doing today, we were moving at a good enough pace with everything, especially with doing the 4 sets of 20. You're getting that good like rep feel, that like that hard burn and everything like that, and still moving at a good pace. Like heart rate stays up and all of it. So like the workout in general just felt a lot different. It felt more intense, even though we might not have been doing the same weights as we were before, and probably dropped down in weight on most of the exercises for what we did. But if you're looking at it as volume wise, we just did like 20 reps 4 times in a row with whatever weight kind of thing. So like volume wise, we're still pretty close, if not more than what we were doing before, as well as, you know, kind of pushing a little bit harder.
Well, I definitely say we're probably a little bit higher in the volume because all the reps and everything. But that's where the thumbnail comes into play, where I made that thumbnail, right? Like train till it burns, like till everything burns. And when you're doing the way that we were training before, like you said, I've been doing that for almost 8 months, 7-8 months. I've been training that style. It's varied a little bit here and there and changed a little bit. You know, I would change out the reps or sets or a little bit of the volume or something like that, or slightly make modifications as the months went on. But at the end of the day, like it gets to the point where it's like you're doing a nice, slow, deep contraction with a stretch and then a hard contraction. And then eventually you're like, okay, my target range is 8 to 12 reps. I hit 8 to 12, I'm stopping. When you start getting that boredom factor in there, it's like I hit 8 to 12, I'm stopping. All right, well, I'm going to do a set of the 20s and the 30s and the 40s and the 50s. You know, I probably could have gone and did 4 sets of 20 with the 50s, but I did 12 because that's my target range. You leave a lot on the table. Not everybody, and I'm not saying when we started it was leaving a lot on the table, but I just experienced a lot of burnout with that routine. It's just I've been doing it so long, like I need to change it up. And then it's the boring routines that you could do repetitive over and over and over again, day in and day out. That's going to get you the most results if you can put maximum effort into those. Well, I just got to the point where I'll be honest, I just got bored of it, so I changed. So that's why we changed it out. But this routine right here, what I love about it is, like I said, this is where the thumbnail comes in. Like what you said, you hit set 1 of 20, you're like, okay, good. Set 2, like, all right, yeah, I'm feeling that. Set 3, like, man, it's burning. It's when you get to rep 15, 16, everything is burning. And then on that 4th set, resting a minute between sets and then hitting it again on that 4th set, because you're using the exact same weight. So now the muscles are actually fatiguing aggressively. So the burn sets in around like 11, 12. And then you're like, okay, well, I could stop at 11 or 12. Or I can push through and try to hit that 20. So next week I get to go up in weight. Now you're not always going to be able to hit all 20, and you're not going to always go up in weight because you're going to stall out. But everything is on fire and it's burning. But the mindset is like, just one more rep. Just get to 13. Just get to 14. Just get to 15. If I get to 15 next week, I can get to 16. If I could get to 16 next week, then the week after that, I could get to maybe 17. And the next week I could get to 18. And you push through that burn because you're fighting for that rep. You're fighting for that number. Now,
yeah, like little mini goals, basically.
Right. And, you know, like we talked about, like doing every rep as if it's the only rep, that's a powerlifting mentality and mindset because you have to perform each rep perfectly. And that's a very good way to look at it. But also with this style of training, what we changed it up to for me, that I'm throwing that out the window for this go around, and it's just get the reps. Any means necessary. If you got to whip it, you got to pull it, you got to jerk it, you got to put body English into it. Do it as strict form as you possibly can until you can't no more, and then just get the reps. Just push through that burn and just grit it and let everything catch on fire and feel like you're burning from the inside out, and just get your reps because the load is light enough. Because if you do your first 2 sets and this is good. When the time you hit that 3rd, 4th set, when things start feeling like they're on fire and they're burning, you're not handling a load that is out of your grasp or reach. You're in the realm of possibility, right? It's not like, hey, I'm going to go for an 8 rep max or a 5 rep max, and I'm going to try to do it like 6 times in a row. The risk of injury has just dramatically increased. But doing sets of 20, it's like running. And granted, I can't really run because my groin and my knees are all messed up, but it's the same concept. Like if you're sprinting, you have a higher probability of getting hurt if you just jog. Jogging, you go a lot longer. Even though your legs start to catch on fire and they start burning aggressively, you can continue to jog. You can continue to push. You know what? My lungs are burning. They're on fire. My legs are burning. But let me just make it to the next line or the next driveway or the next mailbox, and then I'll walk from there. Yeah. You could push it a little bit further without the huge repercussions of a major injury happening, right? And you might have a little bit more muscle soreness, but that's basically all you're generally going to experience. Now, not for everybody. This isn't advice to say, hey, if you can barely walk, get out there and start hitting the pavement. Like it's all within spectrum of what we're talking about, right? So, and like what you said, the mini goals. It's always good to have like little milestones to look at to see, and that's another way of measuring your progress. Like we talk about measuring progress for everything, right? Whether you're using a tape measure, a scale, a body fat caliber, you're using some form of measurement of progress, and doing it this way, you can measure your form of progress. So instead of going in there and being like, I'm doing the same routine every day for the last 10 weeks, I'm not writing nothing down. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good training programs out there. You do not chase the logbook, you don't chase the numbers, right? You feel the muscle, you work the muscle, you engage the muscle. But whenever you have the logbook, and it's not like a powerlifting logbook, like what we're doing right here, and it's high volume training, it's easier to get stronger with 20 reps than it is to get stronger with 3 reps. So when you trace it, you can log your results. Hey, look, 6 weeks ago, I was doing 35-pound dumbbells for sets of 18, and now I'm doing the 60-pound dumbbells for sets of 20. Right? You can see your progress on paper. Mm-hmm. Even if you can't see it in the mirror, you can't see it on the scale, you don't see it in the tape measure, you can track your logbook, which is going to also like carry over to more results of strength, which will allow you to have bigger weights, which will allow you to have bigger muscles, and so forth and so forth and so forth. So that's another way of tracking your progress. And like I said, then it's also just fun watching your numbers go, but that's the old powerlifter in me. I love watching the numbers and everything. And it's not always healthy to chase the numbers, like you said, because if you don't hit them sometimes, you're like, I'm a failure. And eventually that's going to happen, and you're not going to hit the same reps you hit last week. You're going to hit less. You're not going to be able to handle the same weights you handled last week because you're going to hit less. You're going to be tired. So when that happens, you can just chuck it up to it happens and then try it again next week. Or you can change that exercise out, that lift, that movement for something that's relatable to what you're doing, but different. So you can start at a lighter load and then build yourself back up. And then whenever that stalls out, you go back to the first thing that you stalled out on and start at a lighter load and then build yourself back up. And then you'll go further past it the next time around. So,
yeah, like even when we're in there, just kind of like today when we were in there, just doing the movements and kind of keeping that like faster pace, like it was nice for it being different, because it was good being in there and having like that push, that extra drive kind of thing, just from changing it up and having like the feel of things from not just doing the exercise and going like, okay, like I can get the 12, no problem, whatever sort of thing, but actually having it on every exercise, being able to get to that point for me, myself, where I'm like, okay, like I'm feeling it. Like I got it where I want it to be or whatever. And like, this is it. Like let's keep going a little bit more right here. Yep. That's the one kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Like that's how I like working out. And if swapping kind of switching the exercises, like rep ranges and stuff like that, to this style at the moment is going to help me get that feeling again. Like I don't see any sort of issues with doing that. Like it's beneficial for me in the long run, because that's how I like to train anyway. And just kind of like what we're doing with following and tracking the numbers a bit more again. I've talked about it before, of how that's not really my biggest concern, of course, but like I was saying a little earlier, it's not going to hurt me to do it or whatever. Like training outside of what your exact comfort zone isn't going to be like the end of things kind of stuff. Like, so if I'm going to enjoy what we're doing and it's going to make me push harder, go longer with the process and everything like that, like I feel like I'm bettering myself still in a way that's going to be like, it's going to show the progress a lot better and faster for me. Because like even today I didn't do cardio, but that's also because the previous weeks doing the exercises, I I know it's not the most accurate thing, like with the Apple Watches and stuff like that, but I monitor my heart rate through pretty much every exercise and track it. And my heart rate elevates up a little bit, but not much. But this whole workout, I'd stayed in like a much higher range to where it was like doing cardio the entire time. So I'm knocking out two birds, one stone now.
Yeah.
So that's even better as well.
And so the whole thing about the logbook, like this is personal. All this is just like us talking out loud our inner thoughts and what we're thinking about our training and our progress and just basically our point of view. So everything. So for me, from my point of view, as far as it goes for like the logbook, it keeps you accountable. So like for instance, the way that we were training instinctual, and I think some of the greatest lifters in the world train instinctively. Right? It's a knack that you have. You know, like when to push the gas and when to back off, and keeps you from getting hurt. But then at the same time, it can also kind of, you can misjudge that. And there's a lot of guys that have torn bicep tendons, pec tendons, have had major injuries because they throttled it too hard because they're around a bunch of their bros or they're in an environment and it was just like all amped up and everyone's hyped and everyone's just hyped up and you're feeling it. And then you're like, I can do this, and you stray off and then you get hurt. So the thing about keeping you accountable is, one, it keeps you consistent. Two, it keeps you accountable. So if you go on there one time and you're like, this is for me. Like if I go on there, I'm going to talk as myself, not as to you, right? So like when I go in there and I'm like, I'm tired today. I don't feel like doing this. I don't want to do this. I have no desire to be in here. Everything feels heavy. Nothing feels right. Nothing's clicking. I'm not getting a pump. I'm just exhausted. I don't want to do this, because everyone has those days. I don't care who you are and how hardcore you say you are. Everybody has it. I don't care how much caffeine you drink, how much sleep you get, how much food you get, how much water you drink. I don't care. Eventually, you're going to have a day where it's just like, I don't feel like doing this. Mm-hmm. It may not be the gym you don't feel like doing, but maybe it's that specific movement or that exact workout or those muscles that night, that muscle group. It's just one of those nights where it's just like, I'm not feeling this. But having that logbook, you could go in there and be like, oh man, let's just say like leg press or hack squats or whatever. Let's say hack squats. Let's say you did 225 on the hack squat, just throwing numbers out there. You can say it's light, heavy, whatever you want, doesn't matter. It's just a relevant number. So let's say you do 225 for a set of 20 for 4 sets. And then you go in there and you're like, man, I don't feel like doing this. Everything feels heavy. I don't know what I can do. And then you look at that logbook. Oh man, last time I did 225 for all 4 sets of 20. I got to do at least 230. Mm-hmm. And you know you can do it, because last week you just did 425 for 4 sets of 20. So then you go up to 430, and now here's the kicker with this training. It's like, okay, all I have to do is at least a rep, because I have to do at least 1 rep for 4 sets. 1 rep, 1 rep, 1 rep, 1 rep. There's my 4 sets for 230. I went up in weight like I was supposed to, and I did all 4 sets with the same amount of reps, right? So now next week I come in, I have to do 4 sets of at least 2 reps. Now granted, you're not going to do that. You're going to get on that 430 and be like, okay, I don't have to do 20 because I went up in weight. I just have to get what I can get. It doesn't matter what I get. Mm-hmm. So the mindset changes, right? So it's like, okay, you do your first set. I got 20. Okay, cool, whatever. Maybe I'll get it. You get it again. Your third set. Maybe you get 15. Your 4th set, maybe you hit 15 again. Okay, cool. The number that beats 15 next week. Now here's the kicker, the way that I do this. I don't go 15, 15, 16, 16. If my last set, the number I get on my last set, that is the one that I hold the other sets accountable to. I don't care if I do 20, 20, 20, 12. I have to hit at least 13, 13, 13, 13 the next go around. And then the next week I have to get at least 14, 14, 14, 14. You know, I don't care if I did 20, 20, 20, 20. And then my last set, whatever the lowest number is, that's the one that matters. That's the one I want to get even across the board until I get them all to 20. So if you have to go up in weight, it gives you out to be like, okay, I don't have to do so many reps. But once you start doing those reps, it's like, okay, I got this. But then let's say you come in and you did 425 for 20, 20, 20, 19. Now it's like, man, crap. Now I have to do at least 4 sets of 20 to hit my numbers because I don't want to go backwards. So now the mindset shifts from like, well, I did it last week and I'm only 1 rep away. Do I really want to go down in reps, then have to build back up to this weight? Or do I want to hit that last rep and move up next week? And then next week I can take it easy. Mm-hmm. So then you hit your 20, 20, 20, and you fight for 20. And now next week you come in and they're like, cool, now I can go up in weight, so I don't have to have the pressure of getting those reps. So it keeps me accountable. That's the whole concept of doing 4 sets of 20 with the same weight and trying to get 20 reps with each one. It keeps me accountable. Plus, I'm able to maintain a massive pump. I'm able to keep my rest down between sets because I'm not doing such heavy load. Now, don't get me wrong, I am breathing very heavy between sets, and it is very difficult, but keeping the rest between 1 to 2 minutes and then keeping the loads lighter with higher volumes also build your endurance up and build your cardio up. And then you can actually back off of the cardio some if you're doing cardio, because your heart's going to be accelerated almost the whole entire workout, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
Now, it's not an excuse to say, hey, don't do any cardio if you train like this. Cardio will actually help your training like this. If you do cardio, it will help your training. It'll help you do better at this training because it's a lot of volume. It takes a lot of like lung power to do this. So if you're doing cardio in the evening, if you train like this, you can take your cardio in the evening, get rid of it, and put it in the mornings. And now you can split your cardio up by 8 hours, 7 hours, 12 hours, 10 hours, whatever time you could do cardio in the morning till you work out in the evenings. Or if you're working out in the mornings, you can put your cardio in the evenings. Now you just increased your cardiovascular twice a day instead of just one long session of heavy weightlifting and then cardio at the end. You kind of switch it up. And like I said, this is just how I'm doing it right now, how I've done it in the past, and it was very successful. Like I said, with my dumbbell press, I was even doing straight bar curls, I think 135 pounds for sets of 20, like 5 sets of 20 with 135 pounds. That's a lot of weight. I don't care what anyone says. So you shake it, stick it at all you want. That's a lot of weight to be curling 20 reps for 5 sets in a row consecutively. That's a lot of weight. Oh, well, people strict curl 220 for one. Yeah, that's a massive amount of weight for the bicep. Absolutely. But again, it's a bicep. Like, if you're powerlifting, it's not really that important. But at the same time, if you could get it stronger, you could get it bigger. If you could get it bigger, you could get it stronger. So it goes hand in hand, So that's how I look at it. But like I said, this is all perspective from old beat up powerlifters. Not old, but old enough to be beat up enough to have, telltales and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, yeah, like you're saying, like it does help be with being accountable and then like having those numbers to kind of steer you in the right direction more when you're having those off days, bad days, whatever it might be, sort of thing. And just like having, like I said, for me, like I might not be real big on like a logbook kind of thing, but I am fairly big on just having like a goal and like in mind, kind of set in some way or whatever. And like I guess that's more of how I can look at it, is like instead of it being more like a logbook thing, it's just like mini goal oriented things of like trying to get those reps, get the like for each set kind of thing, and continue just pushing forward and seeing where I go with it, sort of. And like with anything, like over time, things change with the person. So like later on down the road, depending on where I'm at, like I might be like, you know what, like it's like, what about putting size on, things like that, like worrying more about stuff like that. And like when those changes come along, whatever, something like this could be very beneficial in that sort of way. Right now, like I said, my goal is still a bit more like weight oriented at the moment, but this will still help me regardless either way. And at any point, like putting on more muscle is definitely going to be more beneficial than anything else or whatever, because muscle is going to, like, you'll burn more calories at rest with muscle on you than you are without it. So like it's definitely going to be beneficial either way.
Well, and the thing too is most people that are smaller, they try to build muscle mass up, and then they go to cut, and then they change their whole routine up. And the thing is, how you build the muscle is how you'll keep the muscle. So if you're a smaller guy and you build your muscle up doing high volume, switching to low volume when you go in a cut, it's not going to make you keep your muscle or put it on. Like what you did to earn it is what you typically need to do to keep it. And then if you did low volume, switching to high volume isn't really going to yield really any benefits. So like when it comes to gaining weight, losing weight, it really comes down to what works for the individual and what pretty much tickles their fancy and stuff like that. And there is no right or wrong way. I want to be very clear about that. Like I am biased, non-biased, however you want to say it, to any and all training programs. Like, I mean, look at, you have Olympic medalists, right? Like people who compete in Olympic, like the gymnast, some of the best bicep, shoulders, and chest in the world, right? But they never do curls. You never see gymnasts in the gym like banging out, dumbbell curls. So there is no set in stone. This is the way. This is the only way. It's. I'm a fan of powerlifting, strongman, CrossFit, gymnastics, like cheerleading, like you name it, like bodybuilding, like you name it. I'm a fan of it. So there's so many different bodybuilders that train so many different ways and variants. Same thing for strongmen. Strongmen are massively muscle. They have a lot of fat on them, but they don't train like bodybuilders. And then powerlifters don't train like strongmen. The CrossFitters don't train like any of them. And then gymnasts don't train like none of those.
Yeah.
Even wrestlers, look at not pro wrestlers, like actual like Olympic wrestlers, they're jacked, man. They got some wicked muscle on them, and they don't train like the others do. So I mean, NFL players, NBA, I mean, you name it, right? Everyone has a different way of training. So before anyone's just like, that's not how you do it, or that's not a good training program, or blah 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 blah. Like I've always said it. The best training program is the one you'll do and you put the absolute most intensity into. Like, I'm not telling anyone how to do anything, right? I'm just speaking from personal experience and what I like and what I like to do, like just thinking out loud. Just sharing my inner thoughts with everybody in the room for entertainment purposes. Now, whether you take it and you apply it, or you decide not to do it or listen to it, that's on whoever wants to listen to this and stuff. So, like I said, before anyone jumps the gun, like, oh, that won't work. Well, I know it does because I've done it. That works for me. I can't vouch for anybody else. Just like powerlifting, people say like the Mike Minzer thing right now. They say that's really big right now. It's circling back around, where it's high intensity, low volume. Dorian Yates did that. Dontel, man, I can't remember his name. The guy who created DC Training, Dontel something. And then Mike Minzer, are big advocates of high intensity, low volume training. Like just go in there 2-3 sets, 1-2 sets. Destroy the muscle completely and then be done. And that works for a lot of people. But there's this other guy that I watch, not naming names, but he has a very valid point. He goes, how many people are on the Olympia stage training high intensity, low volume? How many of them? How many Mr. Olympia competitors, classic or open, train Mike Minzer style? I mean, there might be one, but which one? Who? Out of all the competitors who got there? And then how many people that train like Mike Minzer and Dorian Yates and Dontel and all these guys stay on top for how long? Dorian Yates tore his tricep off the bone, so he had to quit competing. I'm not sure if Mike Minzer ever had an injury, but he pretty much stopped bodybuilding because he felt jaded from the, IFBB and Arnold Schwarzenegger and stuff like that. So he's like, I'm out, I'm done. I'll be a trainer. Dontel is riddled with injuries, along with a lot of his people that he trains. I mean, he's probably turned more people pro than anyone for his training style. It's successful and it works, but the problem is it has a very high injury probability because the high intensity. You have to constantly be pushing the envelope to maximum throttle with the weights and the percentages. And there's only so long you could do that before things start popping and tearing. And I was a powerlifter. I trained high intensity for a long time, very low volume. Sets of 3 to 5, and doing sets of 3 to 5, I got strong. I got really strong. Not probably like elite, but a 385 on the bench for sets of 3 with the pause and close grip. I'm not meaning tap and go. I mean dead stop on the bench, dead stop on the chest, 385 close grip. It's pretty strong. I mean, you can say, oh, it's weak for a powerlifter, but go to Walmart, go to Target, go to Starbucks, go anywhere, and pick anyone out of the crowd and see if they can even bench 225.
Yeah.
Same thing for my deadlift, in competition, the heaviest ever was 606. So like I said, I got strong, not strong, and now social media, everybody can, like 600 is nothing no more. I remember when I first started off, like 600 was the record. And if you got 600 pound deadlift, like you were the man, let alone a 500, that's insane because not anyone's going to walk in the gym and just start pulling 500 in 3 months, 6 months. Most people it takes a year or 2, 3 years, 4 years to get to 500, let alone 600, 700. And then whenever I started powerlifting, that 500 turned to 6, and that 6 turned to 700, and the world record was only 750, and then it turned into 8. And then I just slowly watched it creep all the way up to where it is now, where there's guys just pulling 1,000 pounds regularly. You're just kind of like, that's insane, man. That's absolutely insane. So there's stronger guys out there. There's always going to be someone stronger, right? But I did the high intensity training. I did the low volume, and I never got big from it. I mean, I was 290 pounds, but I was fat. I was strong, but I never looked like I was a muscular 290. So for me, doing high intensity built zero muscle mass for me. And that's training powerlifting with Mike Mincer, DC training style, lifting. Now, don't get me wrong, I did do DC training, and DC training does work, and you will put size on, but you have to eat and follow it to the T to get the most out of it. So, like I said, there's different training styles for everybody. So it just depends on how much you're willing to put into one. But I can't continue to train DC training and stuff like that because my body just can't hold up to it.
Yeah.
So maybe younger people out there can, get out there and clang and bang with the best of them and put those programs to use and be like, yeah, no, it works for me. Oh, that's great. And do it while you can. And hopefully you never get injured and it never happens and stuff like that. But like I said, show me any Olympic lifters, Mr. Olympias, that are competing on the stage that are training like that. Show me the programs. Show me the interviews where they're like, yes, I train like that, and I've been training like that for this long, and I will continue to train like that. And then follow them and see how long, if, hopefully it never happens, but if it does happen, they get injured. Because like I said, I don't know any of them that train like that. So, and that speaks kind of a lot of volume. Speaking of volume. So, and like I said, this is just me personal, so don't come at me and start hating on me in the comments. You're an idiot, you know what you're talking about, you're a moron, I'm a keyboard warrior, ha ha, idiot. Like, I know there's different ways to do it, but prove me wrong. Show me how many,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it probably would be pretty tough. Because most of the competitors that could be thought of or that are looked at and like more well known, they're more than likely doing like a higher volume, lower intensity kind of stuff, and like just moving volume and like reps wise, not just I'm moving 800 pounds at a time kind of things, whatever. And there's some of the guys that eventually get up to that, like they move volume in that weight capacity kind of thing with time and stuff like that. But I mean, they're in it for a good while before that kind of happens. It's definitely not like an overnight or just like a year or two kind of thing before that starts kind of picking up.
Yeah. Well, and also too, that's the thing about like there's a couple different ways to measure volume. So one of the ways is like, if you do a lot of reps, that's volume. If you do a lot of sets, that's volume. If you train every body part 2-3 times a week, that's a lot of volume. And then there's like more of the powerlifting way to measure volume, where it's like how much total weight are you moving. So it's like if you do 100 pounds for 10 reps on the barbell rows, you just moved 1,000 pounds worth of volume. So if you do 200 pounds for 10 reps, you just moved 2,000 pounds of volume. So if someone says, hey, you need to do 50,000 pounds worth of volume on your back this week, that means that you're going to have to do enough sets and reps to total 50,000 pounds. Like how? Doesn't matter. Do your barbell rows, do your pull downs, your T-bar rows, close grips, whatever. Just get 50,000 pounds worth of volume on your back this week. And that's another way that's how a lot of guys in powerlifting would measure their volume and stuff like that. And a lot of the guys I used to talk to and train with and stuff like that will compete with and stuff like that. And that's how they would measure their volume, because it would be like, it doesn't matter how you get it, just get it. And if you can do 5 sets of 500 pounds. So if you do like, let's say basically 4 sets of singles, you pull 4 singles for 500 pounds, right? That's what, 2,500 pounds? Mm-hmm. So how many times can you do that before your body can't do that no more for that training session or for the week? So backing off the amount of intensity and increasing the volume by lowering the loads and doing multiple reps and sets, and then accumulating your volume over the day, the workout, the week, until you hit your 40, 30, 50,000 pounds of volume for whatever. So then if you're curious, you can even do the math on it. If you like, okay, well, I did this many sets on this exercise, and I used this weight, this weight, this weight, this weight, and I did this many reps, this many reps, this many reps, and then calculate that for the whole entire week, and you can figure out how much volume you did, and you could go, okay, well, I did 20,000 or 18,000 or 14,000 pounds worth of volume. Can I do, if I did 13 pounds, can I do 14 pounds next week? And then can I do 15,000 pounds, then 16,000 pounds, then 17,000 pounds? And that's progressive overload. So it's like, okay, so basically like you're either increasing the amount of reps you're doing, you're increasing the amount of sets you're doing, or you're increasing the amount of weight you're doing. And it's adding up to total volume moved for the week. Yeah. So there's a bunch of different ways to measure it. It just depends on who you ask and what training program and style and who's your coaches and how they're doing and stuff like that. So there's tons of different ways. So there, like I said, you could say that's not how you do it, but unless you try it and you've done it and you have grounds to stand on, And you can say, I've done it, I've applied it, and I've been successful in it, or I failed in it, so it's not for me or it is for me. Or I've done it, I've applied it, and I've helped others apply it, I've helped others do it, and I've helped others be successful in it. So I know this works because I was able to replicate these results multiple times from multiple people, and they all have the same outcome. I've done that with my training programs. I build my own programs, I build my own powerlifting routines when I was powerlifting, and I've helped other people like that were competing or just wanted to be stronger, and I helped them build their routines, and I've watched them over and over and over again all progress typically the same way and accomplish their milestones or hit their PRs or break through their plateaus, and I've seen it over and over and over again. So the programs that I have for powerlifting I know work because I've applied it to myself and I was able to replicate the same results over and over through other people. Then you have the people that are like, okay, I'm gonna take your routine and I'm gonna change it because I feel like it could be better. And then they muddy up the waters with all this unnecessary work, or they change out core movements with other movements that they feel is better. And that's great if it doesn't hurt them. But when they don't vocalize that and they change it up and then they don't hit their PRs, they don't progress, and it's like, okay, well, why? And then you dissect it, then you finally get it out of them. They're like, well, I wasn't doing this and this, or I stopped doing that, or I did this instead, or I changed this out. It's like, hold on, let me get this straight. So on back night, instead of doing barbell rows, you decided to do side laterals, and work your medial head out of the side lateral of the shoulder instead of working out your back. And you changed out barbell rows for side laterals. How at all was that even remotely close to hitting the same target area? Right? You would have been better off changing that out for like seated cable rows or T-bar rows or some type of bent over rowing motion, reverse grip barbell rows, some other motion that simulated the same movement of area of the body that I'm trying to target for you. But instead, you just completely butchered the whole entire routine. And they do this with everything. And they're like, well, I didn't PR. Well, yeah, of course you didn't. Well, it got boring. Well, of course it did. It's going to get boring because it's going to be repetitive. But when you stand up there and you crush your numbers from last time, it's not going to feel boring then. It's going to be exciting. You just have to get through all the boring stuff first. So, but anyways, that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's all valid points. And like I said, just as far as the workouts go right now, like I'm looking forward to continuing like with tomorrow, trying out the arms, but like and shoulders and stuff like that, and seeing how that's going to go. And just the rest of the week too. Just, like it's going to be a different experience for the whole week, kind of getting it all felt out and seeing where we're at with everything, and just kind of moving forward with the numbers and trying to find that happy medium ground where we're at with trying to get the 4 sets of 20 with everything.
Well, that's the beauty of it though, right? Because it doesn't matter if you get 10, 10, 8, 6, there's room for improvement. Because I can guarantee you next week you come in, you can get at least 11, 10, 8, 6, or 11, 11, 8, 6, or 10, 10, 8, 8. I guarantee you could get at least one more rep on at least one set. Guarantee you could get one more rep. Training higher volume is so much easier to get stronger. When you are so close to the peak of your strength and you're like, I got to get stronger at my 3 rep max to make my 1 rep max stronger, and you're constantly just doing your 3 rep max, you're not going to really improve. I mean, you can, but it's going to be a lot more difficult versus backing off to doing sets of 12 to 20 and then building up 12 to 20. And then that 12 to 20 is a lot easier to build up your endurance and your strength and your muscle mass. And then also it helps carry over to your total strength. And then that's what people don't understand. It's like, well, I knew this guy, he was a powerlifter, competed with him, and his whole thing was bench. He had a horrible bench, it was below 200. And he's always doing sets of 2 to 4. Always right on the edge of the envelope. Did almost no accessory work. And then when he did accessory work, he's doing like overhead rope extensions. Like, that's not going to carry over, man. Well, it works for me. And how long have you been powerlifting? At the time, about 3 years. It's like, okay, you've been doing this for 3 years and you're still under a 200-pound bench. And don't get me wrong, that's nothing to be embarrassed about or nothing to be shameful about, but looking at his program and how he was training was the problem. He wasn't the problem. He had so much more potential to get way stronger than that. But his programming was trash. So I broke his program down, cleaned it up, and then I gave him, because he asked me, hey man, can you help me get my bench? I'm like, yeah, sure. So I helped write his program out. I gave him the program. And then he looked at it and he was like, this isn't going to work for me. I said, well, why? He's like, because it's the exact opposite of what I'm doing. It's like, yeah, and you need to do the exact opposite because what you're doing isn't working. And then he wanted to argue with me. So it's like, okay, look, man, you asked me for help, and then now you're not being coachable, right? You asked me to coach you. I'm trying to coach you, and you're not being coachable. You want to be hard-headed, and you want to be stuck in your ways that aren't working. So either you keep doing what you've always done and always get what you've always got, which isn't very much, or you try something you've never done before and get something you never had before. Worst case scenario, you're going to end up exactly where you are now. I guarantee you, you're not going to get worse. I promise you, you're not going to get worse. It's going to be very hard to get worse from where you're standing, you know. So and it's one of those things too. Like I said, so you know, there's people out there that just, you know, they don't want to be coached, they don't want to listen, and then they don't want to apply what you have to teach them. So, and he was training so heavy with such a high percentage that he can never push past that because there's only so much grinding and straining you can do, and your body's just going to adapt to that strain. Like if you train to fail, you're always going to fail. It's that simple. So by him backing off and increasing his volume and decreasing his intensity and getting away, letting his body have that recovery time and increasing the volume, and then taking, let's say, his 60% and then going from like a 5 rep max of 60% and then turning that into, instead of 5 reps, building that up to 15 reps, the carryover would have been amazing. And then he could have brought all his percentages up that way. It's a pyramid. You gotta, the wider your base, the higher your peak. And then when you're training, there's a little tidbit for those that are curious that's made it this far in the video. You don't start at the bench press, right, and be like, okay, I'm going to get stronger here. You go backwards. So, okay, well, what does the bench press work? Okay, now what can get the bench press stronger? Okay, now what can get that stronger? Now what can get that stronger? And what can get that stronger? And then you build up from there. You work backwards. So if you're trying to get your bench stronger, right, and you're doing V-bar press downs, you're not ever going to get your bench stronger. But if you know that there's other movements that have carryover, like if incline bench press, you're weaker at it, doing a close grip incline bench press, and there's a lower percentage, but you can do less weight with the same intensity but with more volume than bench press, it's going to carry over to the bench press. It's a longer range of motion. It's a bigger range of motion. It's a bit, you know, so it's going to have more carryover to a shorter range of motion like the bench. Mm-hmm. And then what would get your incline bench press stronger? Then what will get that stronger, and what will get that stronger? And then you build from volume up to the peak. You know, it's simple. It's not complicated. And then doing it for so many years, like I did, like you learn these things by trial and error, and then people want to ask you for your help. You give them your help, and then they butcher it up, and they become uncoachable, and they get defensive. It's like, whoa, hey, buddy, I'm just trying to help you. I'm not trying to insult you and cut you down and hurt your feelings. I'm just trying to help you because you asked for my help, and then you want to come at me like that. So, but like I said, I got plenty of stories like that. I could go on for hours about stuff like this that I've had over the years and everything. So, but I think that's going to be it for me on this one, man. Is there anything you want to add? I think we might be kind of running a little long. We need to set a timer up so we can see. Next time I'm going to put my other phone up and run the timer so we can see how long we're going. So
yeah, no, I think I'm good for tonight.
Okay. So hey guys, I want to let you guys know, if y'all made it this far in the video, we have ordered mics, and this is dropping Tuesday. It's recorded Monday. The mics will be here on Wednesday. So hopefully they come in Wednesday on time. If they do, then we will be able to start putting better audio out on Thursday, which would be fantastic. I hope you guys like the thumbnail and got a kick out of it. And I hope you guys were entertained and y'all were able to take something away from this. If y'all made it this far in the video, if y'all have any questions or y'all curious about anything, please leave a comment and ask. I'll do my best to follow up and answer. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, if you guys like to, we appreciate that. If you haven't liked the video, you can leave a like about right now. That'd be awesome. If you don't want to do either one, don't do it. It's as simple as that. But until next time, thank you for watching.
Yeah. Later.